All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today, Campaigns, the new campaign enhancements and how they work with billing worksheets. So if this isn't the topic for you, I understand if you have to drop off. My name is Brigitte Hippel. Looking forward to going through this with you. This is actually part 2. Last month, we did the same process with what are the new billing enhancements to campaigns and how they work with mass billing. Today is the opposite. We're doing, showing you what those campaign enhancements were in case you missed it with the mass billing one, but how they relate to billing worksheets. All right. This is not, by the way, going to be a call about how to create campaigns, how to create a project or campaign estimates, what's the best practice, how to link your projects. This is really going to be about just the new enhancement and how that affects and changes how you can now do campaign billing in billing worksheets. So if you do have any questions about how to set up a campaign or the best practice for your situation, then I would definitely suggest setting up a call with your account manager. They will not only be able to talk about campaigns and all its features and what it does and the best practices for your situation, but then they can also cover these new enhancements at the same time because they may or may not be applicable to you. All right, that's kind of the gist of what we're going to be covering today. I will definitely be looking forward to any questions you guys might have. I may not answer them right away, of course, but I'm hoping to get to all of them as we go through. If some of your questions are a little bit too client specific for the way your setup is, then I will probably defer you to your account manager and have you reach out to them and talk about your specifics at that point. All right. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. If, I have to circle back, I'm happy to do that. Really hoping to just kind of take us through this step and understand too that this is new. This is a new feature we've added, the new capabilities within Workamajig. Are we going to have some tweaks and some possible updates and fixes going on? Yes, we're already working on a couple right now. So as you guys go through this process, and if it works for you, then definitely please provide your feedback. Especially if it's good feedback, hey, this is great, this is what we needed. Or if you've got some specific situations, then definitely let us know and see if there's something that we can do. We tried to address, because billing worksheets is such a big topic and has so many moving parts to it. We tried to address everything that we could, but we know that there were probably some little places here and there, especially when it comes to invoice layouts and things like that, that might still need to be addressed. So please don't hesitate to let us know through feedback, through your account manager, and look forward to that. So let's talk about first what you saw prior to the enhancement. So I have a site here called Last Release that allows me to see things before the latest update goes in. So when you go into the settings tab of a campaign, you have this option, bill by campaign, and you can either choose bill by project or bill by campaign. Bill by project literally says, I'm going to bill the individual projects. I'm just solely using my campaign to group specific items together, specific projects. I might want to see them for budgeting purposes or for scheduling purposes, but I'm still really dealing with my projects independently by project. Bill by campaign allows me to say, okay, I actually now have a bill button within my campaign that I may want to create a revenue or an advance bill invoice off of the campaign budget. I'm still going to bill my individual projects the same way, but I may want to bill off of my budget, especially for advance bill purposes. Okay, this is what you saw in the original change. Okay, when we come into The new enhancements now, if I go in and look at a campaign, what we did in here is we didn't change those options. You still have the same two options, bill by campaign and bill by budget or bill by project. Those options still work exactly the same way. This gets us to the reason why we made the enhancement changes that we did. This bill by campaign does give me the option to bill my campaign estimate that I have set up here, either an advance bill or revenue invoice. But if I have this set as bill by campaign, for those of you who use billing worksheets a lot, this actually in billing worksheets says I'm not going to be billing the campaign budget. I'm actually billing the individual projects. I'm just going to be getting a master worksheet so that all of my projects related to this campaign are going to show up on one worksheet. But I'm still billing the individual projects. I am not billing the campaign budget. So this field, when you chose campaign, actually worked two different ways depending on where you billed. If I'm in the campaign, I'm billing the campaign budget. If I'm using billing worksheets, then I'm actually billing the individual projects, but just getting them all onto one invoice for that campaign. This is what we really wanted to separate, and this was what that purpose was, is now we added an option to say, you know what, I want to be able to bill my campaign budget, but I want to be able to do it either through mass billing or billing worksheets. I don't want to have to come into my campaign one by one individually just in order to bill my campaign budget. So we created this new field called Use Campaign Budget. Now, after the change, whatever your campaign was set to didn't change. Nothing about it actually changed. If you want to use your campaign and bill the campaign budget using billing worksheets or mass billing, you will actually have to come in here and check the box. Then it becomes available to bill through mass billing or billing worksheets. All right. So let's go and look at a typical campaign. So there's a number of aspects to the fields and the changes that we made in this enhancement. Okay. One, if I go into or let's say if I look at this estimate, this is an estimate that was just a single amount estimate, which a lot of my clients will do. They'll just create a service estimate. They'll put the entire amount in the first service that shows up and basically says, you know, for labor, we're billing 100,000. It's my individual projects that's going to show how that breakout works. I just need to bill 100,000 in labor. And then of course I have whatever expenses I'm going to bill. So my entire budget becomes $130,000. When I come to campaign settings now and I say, I actually want to use the campaign budget. If you'll notice in this one, the bill by campaign must be selected. Okay, if I toggle this back to project, it goes away. If I come to campaign, then it says, okay, in that campaign, are you wanting to use the campaign budget? Okay, now, no matter how I set that up, bill by campaign or using the use campaign budget, I can still automatically come into the bill button and bill my entire campaign budget directly from the bill screen. That hasn't changed. So regardless of which option you choose, whether you just say bill by campaign or you say use the campaign budget, I will still always have the bill option within my campaign to manually go and say, this is what I want to bill. So that part didn't get affected. The only reason for this button now is to be able to use in billing worksheets and mass billing. Okay. Sorry. I have this bill by percentage of. That's really looking at the estimate and saying, what's that? Basically the way I want to bill my estimate. Of course, billing worksheets always says I need to know those details ahead of time. so that when I create the master or the individual worksheets, I know how to generate it. So this one's basically saying I'm going to bill a percentage of the entire estimate. And then of course now I have a billing schedule. So when I click on billing schedule, you can see that I'm going to be billing 25% of the entire budget. I have the option within here to create an advance bill, and I also have the ability to set in those billing comments. What I do not have the option to do any longer within a billing schedule is to choose to bill based on task. Since you can have so many different projects associated with your campaign, the only option you have in a campaign budget is to bill by date. Okay, so I can set up my schedule. I still have the same options to copy, to create new schedules. I can still set by a percentage or by a dollar amount. I just cannot set it based on when a task is completed. Okay. Let me save that. Let's go ahead and look at another campaign we've got. So this one's just a single estimate amount, single line, going to be billing the total amount. There are some that will create their estimate based on the different projects that we have in here. I've got 3 different projects. Each project has their own estimates within those projects. Okay, so I've got 2 approved estimates on this one. I may be coming into my campaign estimate and creating it based on all of the approved estimates based on my project, which is a total of $34,000. In that case, I may want, within my campaign settings, I'm still using the campaign budget, but now I may want to bill by a percentage of each project. I still have my billing schedule. I'm going to be billing 50% up front on this one and then 25% on each one after that. All right. So there is a question in here about bill by segment. At this time, no, it is still an open item. So if that is your preference to be able to bill by segment, I would please ask you to email in support and let us know, because that's kind of been a question, how many people actually bill by segment. So if you have that, definitely please email in support, because that is not an option through billing worksheets. You can do it inside the campaign, but you cannot do it through billing worksheets. Okay. You can do it through mass billing though. So mass billing allows you to do that within bill by segment. We just don't have it yet in billing worksheets. All right. The last one is I have this campaign where I created an estimate based on specific services, and I've actually put in hours for those specific services. I have $100,000 based on these hours, and then I have $10,000 worth of expenses. Now in this one, when I get ready to go ahead and bill this one, when we look at the campaign settings, I now have this option that I'm looking at that says expenses are not included. So first off, I want to bill, or don't have to necessarily, but I'm going to bill based on a percentage of service and item. Okay, so now do I have to? No, I could still bill based on just a total of the estimate and then say 25%. This expenses are not included works exactly the same way it does on a fixed fee project. So if we come over and look at a fixed fee project, so I've got the project settings, I go into the billing options and I see I'm just doing fixed fee. When I look at the billing schedule, it says I'm taking 50% out of the total budget. Okay, but if I come back to billing options here and say, well, you know what, when I bill my fixed fee, I'm really only billing the labor portion of the budget, and then I'm going to bill any actual expenses that come in. So I may have budgeted $5,000 for printing, but if the actual expense came in at $6,000, I'm billing the actual expense, not the budget. So in this sense, I just want to bill the labor budget and then also include any actual extra expenses. So if I go ahead and select that, whoops, didn't mean to close that. Let me open that back up. And now if we look at the billing schedule, it's actually saying 50% of just the labor only, because it knows you're not going to be billing the expenses, you're going to be billing the actuals, not the budgeted expense, the actuals. So the system is calculating your billing schedule based on just the labor portion. Okay, that's the exact same way that a fixed fee campaign will work. It will say, okay, my estimate in here for the labor was $100,000 with $10,000 of gross expenses. When I go into the campaign settings and I look at my billing schedules, since I can bill actual expenses from my individual projects that are linked to this campaign, when I go in and look at the billing schedule, it is actually taking 25% of the total of just the labor only. Okay. Now, another way to look at that is if I go into the actual bill button over here. The bill button handles the same thing. It says, okay, if I'm going to bill by service and item, because I'm manually selecting my labor budget, I'm going to select just the labor portion of my budget. Okay. But then I can see the actual expenses that came in on my various projects. Now, of course, I can filter this by a specific date, and my screen refreshes. Whoops, didn't mean to uncheck all that. Sorry. And I come over and I look. Now I've got specific expenses that are up through the date of 5/1. So those are actual expenses within my various projects. So I could bill 100% of the labor budget plus the 390 of actual expenses, so that my total that I would be billing would be the 100,390. All right, let's see. Is this for advanced billing, where we bill the advanced bill at 50% and then another 50%, but then the recognized revenue actuals will be under mass billing? So let me see if I can answer that question. Campaign settings, the billing schedule. If I have this set to use the campaign budget, that means that regardless of whatever projects are related to this campaign, I will be billing the campaign budget. Now, I may be taking the extra expenses, but I am billing the campaign budget. When I go and create this billing schedule, I can set up a billing schedule to go ahead and create an advance bill 50%, and then create a revenue bill later on for 50%, and then the actual and another advance bill. So I can set these up, but this is literally billing the or the budgeted amount on the campaign. Okay. Now, one of the things that we also included with these enhancements, besides the ability to bill extra expenses, is that if we look at the bill option in here and you look at the more button, you've got mark all your transactions as billed. So if I have a lot of labor transactions or even expenses, if they're not to be billed separately, I have the ability now that when I go and bill my campaign, it's going to go out to my individual projects and mark those transactions as marked as billed up through the through date. Okay, that is an option. If you've turned that on, the system will remember that it's on, so that your campaigns are always doing that. If you've turned that off, then then you will have to manually go back to your projects to update. Is there any type of indicator to inform actuals exceeded approved budget amounts, or does the system allow for billing over the PO amount? You're getting kind of into some very specifics here. You've got notifications out there that can be sent out based on, are you over budget or not? Are you over budget by task? Are you over budget by item? Are you over budget by the entire budget. So there's different notifications that you could have in there. The system allowing for billing over the PO amount, that has to do with more your approval process. If you've got a PO for 50,000 and the vendor invoice comes in for 60,000 and it gets linked to that PO, is the vendor invoice approved? Is there a reason why it came in higher? So that has more to do with the approval process. This really has to do with the system will look at any available expenses that can be billed because they're in an approved status, regardless of what your budget says. Okay. Once the schedule is set, does it send you a reminder to bill, or does it just automatically create an invoice? It does not automatically create an invoice. If you're using billing worksheets, the billing worksheets will look at your billing schedule to know when this campaign is ready to bill. It's like any other project that has a billing schedule or has transactions to bill. Once you run billing worksheets, it's either going to look at your billing schedule or it's going to just look at, do you have an available to bill? And then it shows up. All right. Any other questions before we kind of get off of the campaigns themselves, and we're going to actually go to the billing process? Okay, so I have 3 different campaigns. They're all set up differently. And this last one here is going to be billing those actual expenses. I do have my projects set up. I have time entries on them. I have expenses on them. So I'll be able to show you what happens within those projects to those transactions. All right, perfect. So let's go ahead and go to the Today Billing page. I'm just going to quickly, for those of you who missed mass billing and might be a little interested, you notice now that we have a new category in here called fixed fee campaigns. You must have a campaign set to use the campaign budget for it to show up. If you just have your campaign set up as bill by campaign, it's not billing the campaign budget. If you do not see this option and you do have some of your projects in there, you can go into your system settings and make sure that it is being displayed as one of those statuses under mass bill. Okay. For the individual that had the question about segments, mass billing does allow, first off, it says, hey, you can look for campaigns that have segments, or do I see ones that have segments versus don't have segments? So when I scroll over, I've got segments, yes and no. I might not want to combine them because I'm billing separately. So I may just come in and say, okay, show me all the ones that have a segment so that when I bill my campaign and generate, I can actually generate it based on segment. Okay. It does, of course, read the billing schedule that you've got set up. And also, if you'll notice in here, here is the bill, a mark is billed all transactions left unbilled. Long way to basically say, when you have labor and or expenses up through that through date again, it's going to take those transactions on those projects, even though I'm billing the campaign right now, it's going to go through my projects and actually mark those transactions as billed. If you uncheck this box here, it will remain unchecked, so it does remember your setting. All right, so that was just a little recap about mass billing for those who might have missed it. If I go to generate, the generate screen hasn't changed. So if I go ahead and set my through date and say I'm billing up through the first of the month, technically it probably should be through March 30th, but I set my billing schedules all the May 1, so I have to do May 1. I'm going to go ahead and just look for my specific client, and I'm going to go ahead and search. Now what you're going to see within here, of course, is you've got a new category. Just like we have a new category under mass billing, we have the new category under billing worksheets. If I look at campaigns, this is the original campaign. This is the one that basically said, I'm only billing just the campaign. This is going to create a master worksheet. I'm still billing the individual projects. It's the standard old way of doing things. Okay. All right. This is the one that says, okay, I see that you have 3 campaigns set up for this client and you're using the use campaign budget. So even though it says here's it showing the total budget, I haven't invoiced any of these yet. This is what I've got unbilled. It is not showing you any additional expenses that need to be billed or can be billed. It's not showing you what labor is going to be marked as billed. It's just saying I'm looking at your campaigns, and out of your campaigns, you have invoiced nothing yet. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and select all 3, and I'm going to generate. Now, when I come over, excuse me. Sorry. All right, my bad. I had to cough, and then I thought I hit the right button. My apologies. I'll start over on that part. Thank you, Jill, for that. Okay, so worksheets. We're going to look at this first one, the bill by estimate. All right. That must have been interesting for you guys. So I have the estimate. That is a single line estimate where I just threw a lump amount into a single service. I have expenses included in there. I'm going to go ahead and bill a percentage of that estimate, and I'm billing 25% of the total of the budget. So when we come in and we look at the campaign, what you're seeing here is the campaign budget line. This is the budget, and it's being treated like a fixed fee, and it's saying this is the amount of the budget I'm going to bill. So we're going to go ahead and look at this one first. You notice it's part of a master worksheet. So here's my master down here. When I come into the fixed fee amount, it said you told me just to bill a percentage of the total amount, 25%. I can obviously come in here and edit it and change it, but this is what it's reading on the billing schedule. If I come into the worksheet settings, oops, not the worksheet settings, sorry, the billing schedule, you can see I can always double check the worksheet, or the billing schedule has now been updated with the worksheet information. Okay. That's the fixed fee portion. That's the campaign portion. The other 3 are the 3 projects that I have listed on this campaign. I have 3 different projects. The reason it lists them is it has to show what's going to be marked as billed. So if I come into this one, here's for my project A. I have 425 of what we call billable. So that's basically saying I've got 425 right now that's going to be marked as billed. They're falling in within my date range, and I'm not going to be billing the actual transactions. It's labor and expenses. They're going to be marked as billed. This billable amount here says, well, the date that I used on my billing worksheet was transactions up through 5/1. So when I look at the billable, these are all transactions happening after that date, but it gives you the opportunity to say, hey, should this really have been included in this worksheet? Then you can add it to the worksheet. Otherwise, it's just showing you, hey, this is what's already happened since that date. And so they're considered billable, but they're not being added in anything. It's just to remind you, you already have some transactions that go past your through date. Okay. There's going to be nothing that's going to be billed because this worksheet is simply to show on this project the items that are to be marked as billed, which again, just like anything else, you have the option to say, hey, don't include this, or I should have transferred this, it's on the wrong project, etc. Same options as you do any other time when you've got transactions. Fixed fee projects will do the same thing. It will show you everything that's to be marked as billed. Okay. It does the same thing for each one of these projects. I've got a billable. Those are the items that came in after my through date, the items that are actually going to be marked as billed on my project. And then my next one, same exact thing, to be marked as billed, the billable amounts. Now, these 4 are child worksheets to this master. So here's really what the invoice is going to be generated off of. I've got a single line of the budget that's going to be billed. Here's actually my campaign name, and I'm billing that, and it's showing that 3 projects have nothing to bill, but they're going to be marked as billed. Okay, so I'm going to just approve that master worksheet, get him off of our list. All right. So if I now look at the next one, the fixed fee that has to do with bill by project. So this is our campaign where we had come in and actually created an estimate from those specific project estimates. And I want to bill based on a percentage of the projects. Now, do I have to? No, I could still bill just off of a percentage of the total amount. I just created my estimate based on the estimates on the project. But if I want to actually bill a percentage of the estimate, and I'm billing 50% of those projects. So if we come to our list here and we look at the fixed fee portion, you're going to notice that when I go and click into the fixed fee amount, it's billing 50% of each project. Same thing happens with all the individual projects. I have no extras to bill. This is showing me what's coming in after my through date. And these are the items that are to be marked as billed. I have some labor and I have some expenses that are both to be marked as billed. And that's the same thing that happens on each one of these. I'm always going to get that child worksheet per project, just so I recognize that there is something to be billed or something not to be billed, marked as billed. So this project here had nothing to be marked as billed even, but it still generated a worksheet because it had some billable and it wanted to make sure that there shouldn't have been something on here. Hey, wait, I thought we should have had something on this project. So again, even though there's nothing to bill, it's showing me that just to make sure this is exactly correct, that I didn't put the transaction on the wrong project. Then of course, if we come down and we look at the master is billing the project. So here's each individual project, and it's actually doing it by project and service. And then when I come down, I have no extras that's being billed. So this is what's going to be billed. I'm going to approve this one. All right. So now let's look at the last one. If I come to the estimate here on the services, we actually build out individual services with specific hours. I'm coming into my estimate. We've got some actual expenses that are going to be billed. We're billing this by service and item, or again, I could still do by estimate. It's still going to pick up the right amount. It's going to pick up the labor only portion, so it should be billing 25% on that fixed fee portion. When I come to my service and item, here's the fixed fee one. There's the 25,000. So if I come in and look I look at the fixed amount, you can see that it's actually picking up all the services. And of course, these can be changed. It can be edited. You can even change the detail if you don't want to. You can flip it and say, well, I really should have just done this one by estimate. So you can flip that. You can even say, I'd like to group my items in here by billing item if I'd like to. So you can kind of set that information if you want. Okay, so my master worksheet is this last one. If we look at the individual project budgets or project worksheets, I should say, now I have some actual transactions that are to be billed. I have a miscellaneous cost for shipping for $25 to be billed. Now, if I decide I don't want to bill it, can't bill it, whatever, I need to transfer it, I can still do that. I see that I have some billable transactions that are showing up after my through date. Did I need to add those into my worksheet? And then, of course, I've got my original to build that just says, hey, right now you're still setting to say you're going to bill the $25. I have no labor transactions on here that are going to be marked as billed, but I would be able to see that marked as billed in here. If I go down to the next one, I've got $185 to be billed. I've got some billable transactions. So 185, I've got printing and shipping. And then the last one, I have $180 to be billed for production services. When I go and look at the master on this one, here's my fixed fee portion. Here's the individual projects that are billing. So on the fixed fee portion, I've got my campaign name. I've got the services or the items. I wasn't grouping by billing item 2. So I've just got the campaign and then the service and item, or just services in this case. And then I come down and I've got my project expenses. Those are the individual expenses on each project. You often show billing by service and item. Can you just easily flip to bill by task? Not for a campaign, because the campaign is either at a campaign budget or a project level, but it doesn't go all the way down to project and task. Okay, you could do that on a regular fixed fee where you could flip it to task on a project, but you cannot do that on a campaign. Okay. If I go ahead and approve this worksheet, and I close this, so now all of my worksheets have been approved. So if I go in and get ready to create those invoices, I've got just those 3 masters. And you know, of course, that if you approve the master worksheet, that automatically approves the child worksheets. Otherwise, you can approve each child worksheet, but then you still need to go in and approve the master. But if you approve the master first, it automatically approves the child worksheets. Okay. So I have my 3 different masters. I'm going to go ahead and bill those. I'm going to generate my invoices. I'm going to generate them as approved. I'm just going to use today's date, and I'm going to generate those invoices. Now, when I come down, I'm going to come to invoices ready to print. I'm going to look at just today, and here are my 3 invoices. So if we look at the first one, that was where I just did a single line for the total amount of the budget. Okay, it's linked to the campaign. It is, so if I come in here, here is the campaign. It's billing just a single line amount. Nothing really different about that. If I look at the second one, this was billing by project. Now I have each individual project, and then I did get the items. So if I wanted to, I could roll these up by project. And then of course they are all linked to by campaign. Okay. The last one is by service and item where the extras were included. So here's the campaign name. So I could roll these up to just the campaign. These are the services that I actually billed a percentage of. So if I wanted to show that detail or not. And then of course, here's the individual lines for each project that was to be billed. Okay. And then of course, it's still linked to the campaign. And that is basically the changes to be able to use the campaign and bill the campaign budget through either billing worksheets or mass billing. Okay. All right, let's see. I have another question. Are there any good reports that project managers can use to double check their billing worksheets before accounting creates their invoices? Yes, I guess my question would be, who's reviewing the billing worksheets in the first place. So, billing worksheets was really meant to be, I have a process. I've got the idea that, I'm the one who generates the billing worksheets. They automatically go out to the account managers. The account managers decide what to bill. It comes back in to either the billing person who gets to create invoices, or it can actually go to a billing manager, which may be, if you want to set, the project managers up as billing managers on their specific clients, it is a client level thing, then you can also have the billing manager review when they come in. So, really when you're looking at close this, when you're looking at billing worksheets and review, billing worksheets to approve, and then ready to create invoices. So when they go out in review, they're automatically going to the account manager. When the account manager reviews it and determines what they're going to bill, they come back into billing worksheets to approve. That is generally the billing person, anybody who has the right to create invoices gets the billing worksheets to review. Now they can automatically go instead to a billing manager rather than to just the general billing person, and then ready to create invoices. Now, again, once the invoices that get created, who's the approver on the invoices? So depends on where in the process you want to see what's being done and what's being billed. Are there some great reports? Yes, you can easily create it depends on, do you have access to the billing page? If not, you can create a custom report off of, open unapproved invoices where you're the project manager on the project. So, if I came into open invoices and I modified this and we look, and I believe project, maybe it doesn't have project manager. Okay, so client invoices doesn't have that. I'd have to look into a little bit further on, there's other reports that you could use, but it depends on what point do you want to see it. And are you, hey, waiting to be submitted, waiting for approval? Do you have access? Do you come in here and review those? So different areas that you can do that within the system. When you click to hide the details on the invoice on the edit invoice screen, will that hide the details on the printed version of the bill? Yes. So if you're, I know, whoops, wrong one. I know that invoicing can be very unique and difficult, especially getting those layouts correct. So if we go back and look at today, and let's look at our last one. Okay. So there is a display option on your invoice that determines, am I showing the details? Am I showing all the way down to transaction level? Or am I just showing no detail because I'm only showing this line? This is actually preset when you use invoice layouts. The layout will say, oh, I know based on the layout you're using, you want to display this or you don't want to display this. That gets decided on the layout. That's why if you ever generate an invoice and then pick the layout afterwards, if I came in and said, hey, I want campaign billing item and item or something, it's not going to follow the rules of that layout with the display options, because it says I do that at the time I generate the invoice. So if you're looking at your client record and you go into billing and you go into the defaults and you set up the invoice layout at the time, the layout is actually setting those defaults and says display, don't display, sub items, transaction level, because you've already set it on the layout and you're telling this invoice, I want you to generate based on this layout. And so then it presets those defaults for you. But doesn't mean that if you didn't preset it on your invoice or on your client record and you didn't have it preset then on your invoice, you can come through and manually play with these options to get it to the right way. But I would highly suggest you actually work with the correct layout, put that layout on your client record, so that when you create invoices through billing worksheets, it will automatically use the correct layout and set the correct display format automatically for you. Okay. I hope that helped and answered your question on that one. All right. Perfect. There are, as I said, still tweaks and changes, especially with billing worksheets, line formats. We're still kind of reviewing that. We're reviewing that option about segments. So if you want to be able to bill by segment, then I would definitely need to have you send in an email. I just need confirmation to the engineers that, yes, people are out there actually billing by segment. Now, again, if in the meantime you wanted to use by segment, you could do that already on mass billing. We allow that option. It was a whole lot easier to set it up here. Billing worksheets has so many moving parts to it, so much set on the client record, set in the campaign, set on the worksheet itself that we kind of stopped at segment and said, okay, this is a big ball of wax here. So need to just have that feedback from you guys. As you guys work through this, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to your account managers. They will be more than happy to help you. If you have feedback, again, love to hear the feedback. Love to know whether this webinar was even helpful other than the time that I threw myself on the mute. I just was actually checking to see if you guys were really listening or not. And it was good to know you guys were actually out there. So hope you enjoyed this webinar. Let's see, any last chat? Oh, perfect. Great. Appreciate you guys joining my webinar. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you, guys.